Hello, everyone. Welcome back to season two of Tech Talks. Today is episode one, and we're going to be talking about digital banking and customer engagement within applications. With me today is Anushe Rashid. She heads product at Hisab Kitab, and we're going to be discussing how the banking industry and generally the fintech industry has gone a bit further and how much more room there is to grow. So, to start off, Anusha, do you want to share some of your thoughts on the recent new features being launched across applications, whether it's a wallet app or it's a bank application? We do see a bit of a shift coming in digital banking. What do you think about that?
So I think digital banking in Pakistan has still a very long way to go. We're definitely moving in the right direction, especially when you see places, banks like JS Bank leaning into open banking, Allied Bank leaning into the fintech hackathon type situations, right? And Al Falah relaunching their entire application to suit a more digital first need, right? Obviously, we saw with Al Falah, it didn't launch very well. The production was not working at all. But there is obviously it's still a step in the right direction. Um, Still a long way to go. Let's see what these new digital banks bring into the fray as well. They're currently in their FNF series, so cross fingers that State Bank approves them, and we're good to go and see what can the digital banking industry do next.
True, true. I agree with that. And just to add a little bit more to that, I do think that when it comes to bringing innovative features into your application and when it comes to engaging the customers more, I certainly think that wallet apps like NayaPay and SadaPay have taken the charge in that on that front, and we have seen that with their innovative features and them adding more things into their apps, the banks have also sort of followed in that direction, which I think is a great thing. We do see a lot of digital banks and a lot of wallets leading this, I guess, if you can call it revolution.
I would actually disagree with that. So
Okay.
a couple of years ago, with like the launch of NayaPay and SadaPay, there was definitely a hype there, right? With GS Bank's Zindagi, with Easy Pesa, all of those things, that there was a hype there. But I think it's stagnated to a point where there is nothing new coming in. And I don't know why, but maybe it's state bank regulations, maybe their teams are not geared for it. Who knows, right? But if you notice, SadaPay doesn't do much in the consumer space anymore. NayaPay I don't think, has launched any new features in a while either. Easy Pesa is obviously pivoting towards the digital banking sphere, so we'll see what they do on that side. And Zindagi is having its issues with customer acquisition and maintaining that. Uh, but I think that these wallets, while they are convenient, they're not matching up. Like, you'd want them to do it, but I think they're struggling as well. What might actually bring more innovation would be banking as a service, where you have a bank at the back powering all of these third-party fintechs, they're helping them kind of actually innovate. I think that's where we're actually going to see innovation with Neem, with Abhi, all of those things. But wallets as a whole don't seem to be cutting it anymore. They're good for, like, transactions that your bank is not going to let you make, but
Yeah. And do you think any part of the reason could also be that there seems to be limited user awareness or user adoption when it comes to these features or when it comes to these wallets? Because at the end of the day, they're also targeting a very limited sort of demographic. Like take SadaPay, for example. I don't believe from their positioning and from how it is being marketed, I don't believe that the segmentation is very vast. It's just a small circle of people, and I don't think that it can go or expand the way, for example, Easy Pesa does, because Easy Pesa started their operations from on ground. They started their operations from stores, from utility stores, and then they moved to digital. So that way they were able to bring in a lot of customers to the digital front with them. However, with Sada Pay and Naya Pay, I feel like it's the opposite. They started from digital, and then what that does, in my opinion, is that it makes your demographic very small. Do you think that could
Mhm.
be the reason for that as well?
For sure, for sure. If you notice, banks obviously have a very vast demographic. They go all the way from your very low salary income base level to like your high wealth, high value customers, right? So that's a huge demographic. Easy Pesa, like you said, it started on ground simply as payments, just to be able to push money from one place to the other. And then they brought all of those Kiryana stores, all of those mom and pop shops onto a digital platform. SadaPay, the marketing hype where they started from Instagram and kind of grew from there meant that they were only targeting a very certain income level and a very certain bracket of people. And when those users kind of got to a point where they could start, having their own bank accounts, where they could have their own credit cards and stuff, it's been 4 years, right, since SadaPay launched. So they didn't manage to grow as their user base started aging, right? So
Yeah.
they did not shift at all. And I do think that that is most likely the reason why they're not growing in size.
I agree. And I do think that that could be the reason why they've also started including more business owners and started catering to
Hmm.
freelancers more, so that
Yeah.
that could bring them a better demographic. But I agree. In general, Sada Pay and Naya Pay seem to only be focusing on people who don't have bank accounts. And then when it comes to bank users, they are actually like, I, as a bank user, am able to get much more out of a bank account than I would be out of a wallet, because a
Hmm.
wallet is just for my transaction. A bank account is something that would actually be a lot more useful to me.
Yeah.
So, completely agreed, 100%. Um, then I also wanted to touch base a little bit on adding more features to your applications. And I think as we start that, it would be good for us to mention some features that we actually do like in banking applications.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
are there any features that you'd like to mention that you think are a very good step in the right direction for digital banking in Pakistan?
Hmm. Um, so Askari Bank has a personal financial management tool. So I do think that that is a great step in the right direction. um, But on a serious note, I do think that one of the biggest challenges that a customer of the financial industry in Pakistan faces is simply the opening of an account, right? So any application, any bank that lets you open your account digitally is good in my books. Really, that is where you have to start, because if you're not going to give them instant access, if you're going to ask them to come to your branch to actually open it, then it's really not going to work. Your customer acquisition will be terrible.
Yeah.
Avoiding the bad words, right? But yeah, so that is, I think, the biggest challenge that people have. And I'll give you an example of my own sort of experience in trying to open an account. Now, I am not a customer of this particular bank that I'm talking about, but I wanted to have their credit card. So when I applied, they called me, they explained all of their types of cards that they have, and then they said that they would send somebody to get my documents to actually help process this accounting. I was like, okay, great, I don't have to visit your branch, amazing. But when that person showed up, the guy had absolutely no actual affiliation with the bank. The person emailing me was emailing me from a Gmail account. And like, how do you trust these middle people who aren't affiliated at all with the bank to
Yeah.
carry my official documents from one place to another? Right?
Yeah.
Like, they have like biometric devices. I don't know how verified those are. So that, I think, is one of the biggest challenges, just account opening. And
Yeah.
just how uh I don't know what to call it. I don't think it's like unstandardized, but the standard is kind of trash.
Yeah.
So that's definitely where Alphala comes in with you, and UBL comes in with their digital account openings, and you're like, wow, amazing.
Yeah.
Another feature that I really like, and this comes from NayaPay, is splitting transactions, splitting bills.
Yeah.
And that I think is great. That is definitely something that people like us would use a lot, where one person pays the bill for the entire for a restaurant bill, and then you need to kind of recollect that money. So definitely that definitely helps. So you can do it all digitally. I just wish that they'd connected to a particular transaction that had happened, through my application. Otherwise, it's just like, kahan se paisa aa raha hai, and all of that
Yeah.
situation, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, do you have any features that you particularly like?
So, when you mentioned the whole credit card bit, I also wanted to add to that, and I think the feature that I'm going to talk about is also about that is, so credit card application is honestly such a pain in Pakistani banks. I completely agree with you because when I was applying for a credit card, I had a similar experience. The customer service person reached out to me themselves because they told me that, oh, we have a sales quota for the credit card and you're eligible for it, so why don't you apply? And I was like, okay, it sounds like a good deal, so I'll apply for it. And then what ended up happening is that all the customer service people would, like you said, they emailed you from an unofficial Gmail account. I would get WhatsApp calls on a Sunday at 1 a.m. These kinds of things. And then every time I would send my documents, they would ask for them again because they'd be like, oh, the guy who collected your documents actually went on chutti. So now we need your documents again. And it was so unprofessional that I not only ended up unsubscribing from the entire process, I wanted to withdraw my application, but it was still not stopping. Like after even withdrawing my application, the entire customer service team still ended up reaching out to me every single day on WhatsApp calls, on emails, on everywhere. And I had to launch an official complaint
Mhm.
against them to help them just stop. Like, I don't want to take your credit card anymore. I just can't take it.
Exactly.
And then I think that there is one feature of HBL that I really like is that if you have a certain amount of balance that you're maintaining within your HBL account and you have good transactions, you have a healthy transaction history, what the HBL app has this option. I'm not sure if they do it anymore, but they used to do it a lot a year or two ago where they send you an in-app push notification and they tell you that, hey, you're eligible for a credit card.
Mhm.
And when you apply for it, because they can also tell that it would be your first time applying for a credit card, so they give you a limit according to the balance that you have maintained and your transactions. To be honest, in the initially it's a very small limit, but I guess it's just to start you off with a credit card. But I really like that feature because they can use it really gives me makes me happy to know that the data that I'm providing to a bank is being used for my benefit as well. So
Mhm.
the credit card that I have with them was I kept it going for 1 year, and then after a year they sent me an SMS themselves. They're like, hey, you've made good payments and you're eligible for an upgrade. Just reply this number to this SMS and we'll send you your upgraded credit card. And that's what I did, and I got my credit card. So I feel like that's a really good feature, and it's not talked about enough. I feel like a lot of credit card offering banks should add this feature to their app and utilize our data like that.
No, for sure. Because yeah, we've given you so much data. You know exactly where our money is going. Why
Yeah,
can't you just tell me if I'm pre-approved for a credit card or pre-approved for a loan, even, right?
yeah,
Like all of this data is not supposed to be isolated, right? The
yes,
state bank, at the very, very least, the state bank knows, right? Even if a single bank doesn't know, the state bank knows what kind of credit history you have, what kind of payments you make, and all of that. So yeah, why don't more banks do that?
yeah. And this actually brings into this such a lifestyle aspect as well, because like a good example of this is that there's a coffee shop there's a coffee shop that I used to go to a lot, and I'm not ashamed. It's a borderline embarrassing to admit this, but I would go every single day, and I would pay with my HBL card for that coffee every day. And if you like, just to put it into perspective, this was a few months of almost every day me going to that coffee shop and buying coffee from that shop.
Hmm.
Still, HBL did not use that data to tell me that actually the coffee shop that you're spending on, we have a 40% discount. If you
Yeah.
just, instead of paying the card, pay through the scan to pay app, which is in the same app that you have, and it's going to
Hmm.
take like less than a minute for you to make that transaction and you'll get 40% off. I never found that out from my bank. I actually found it out from the cashier of the store. He was like, you
Yeah.
keep making payments from this card, and this same bank has a 40% discount. Why aren't you utilizing it? And that's when I
Hmm.
realized that this data should have been used for my advantage, and I should have been told this before. I should not have to find out from the cashier.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like even suppose you're two bakeries, Pie in the Sky and Hobnob, right? If you are consistently buying from Pie in the Sky, but your exact card has that discount on Hobnob, like bro, just tell me, right?
Yeah,
I can save money. You will get more sales on a particular merchant. The merchant will be happy. Come on, it's a win-win situation.
yeah,
Yet banks don't. I don't know. Do they not have the visibility of this sort of data, or is it a forethought situation? I'm not sure, but I do think that there is a lot of there's a lot of value in them actually utilizing this data and communicating to us. Hey,
yeah,
we're all customers of the financial industry, right? We can't avoid
yeah,
it. So why
yeah.
not use it to our betterment?
Yeah, and then bringing the same point in for credit cards and generally any credit product is that if I have a salary account and you see a certain amount being credited every month with the description of salary coming in,
Hmm.
then why do I have to give so much proof of the same salary? If it's coming
Yeah.
in from the same vendor that I told you I work at and the description says my employer's name, and it's the same amount that I told you, then I think that's enough verification. I can't fake these transactions.
Mm. Honestly, if the banking industry here followed all of those international standardization certifications, I think that things like this would be a lot simpler.
Yeah,
So whether it's and I think recently at a banking event also they spoke about this ISO 200221, I think, or something like that. But just the communication between financial institutes, right? More standardized, more data, and more actual insights out of that.
yeah. So that also brings me to my second point, which ties in all of this together, is the point of credit scoring. So credit scoring is generally done for people who have taken a credit product. But if in order to encourage people to take more credit products, we also need to provide them better solutions. And one of them includes credit scoring based on the transactions that they're making. So if I'm
Exactly.
operating solely on card and my cash transactions are very, very minimal and all of my transactions are on card, it should give you a really good idea of what my credit score is like.
Hmm. Yeah. No, for sure. And the simple act of paying a bill on time or having a consistent pattern, like you definitely top up your prepaid phone on the second of the month, and you're consistently doing that for like 6 months, that proves some amount of discipline, right? Being
Yeah,
able to pay your bill before time, also it's both discipline and availability of funds, right?
yeah.
So all of those sorts of things, paying back small loans, paying back your friends, those sorts of things should kind of fall into, hey, this person has good credit habits. They should have a good credit score. What can we do for them? Right? They're not high risk.
Yeah, that's basically what I wanted to add in was that when it comes to bills as well, a lot of bills these days are digitized, and that is one feature that I also wanted to mention, which I think right now has become a very basic thing for us, and it feels like the new normal, but it wasn't very
Mhm.
common a while ago, which is with topping up your mobile or your SIM package through your bank application. I feel like when it did
Mhm.
launch, it made everything very easy for me and for all of us, and I feel like because of that, that is one of the things that has actually digitized a lot of our transactions. क्योंकि पहले इस तरह होता था कि आप बाकी कोई भी चीज digitize कर लो, getting yourself a super card was the one thing that was not digitized. You still had to go to a shop and buy it.
Mhm.
So that is also, one of the good things.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, I hated having to go and getting that little tiny card, scratching it off with like that. It's so gross, honestly. So yeah, it's definitely probably the most used actually for me also because I still have a prepaid SIM. So
Yeah,
every couple of days, I feel like okay, I need to top up my credit, and lo and behold, it's easy, right? I don't have to
yeah.
bother.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually quite easy, and I feel like this is just that one of those features that is that is an example of how easy they've made it for people across ages, because I feel like
Mhm.
now, I don't know about anyone else, but now I've actually like gotten my parents very used to it as well. So they can also just
Yeah.
open their app and top up their own super card.
Mhm.
So, these are the kinds of features that we need. That you make services so easy that
Yeah.
it's not just catering to people that are in a certain age bracket. It's not just catering to people who have grown up with technology, which is how we
Mhm.
have grown up. People who had to learn technology from scratch should also be able to use these features. And that is why I think, coming to our very first point, that is why I think that digital wallets are not progressing, because they are only catering to people who grew up with technology.
Mhm. For sure, I completely agree. Technology is a very difficult thing to learn, even with this entire AI wave. Now, we haven't grown up with AI, but somebody who is like 10 or 12 right now, they will definitely be growing up with it. So, 10 years down the line, we would have struggled to learn
Yeah,
how to use AI properly. And these kids right now are just going to be like super adept at it. So
yeah,
right now, all digital banks, all banking institutions, when they're including if they're coming up with new features, coming up with AI driven features specifically, need to be really careful about how they create this, how what kind of user friendliness that it has, because it's going to be quite difficult for somebody older than us for also to learn.
yeah,
Yeah.
completely. I fully agree with that. And, with that, I also want to, bring the aspect of customer loyalty because of engagement and how easy, not entirely engagement, but majorly just how easy you make it for your customer. When it
Mhm.
comes to banks, one thing that I have noticed is that people who have multiple bank accounts, which is a huge demographic at this point, because multiple bank accounts is very common. People who have multiple
Yeah.
bank accounts, they always have that one bank that they say is theirs. Like,
Hmm.
if you have 3 to 4 bank accounts, which one do you say is yours? Which one do you say caters to you the most and is your bank? And
Hmm.
I feel like that is just a very key aspect that a lot of digital banks and traditional banks also are missing.
Yeah.
You should not aim to engage your customer. Yes, you should definitely, but the end aim should always be you have to become that bank for your customer, where your customer says,
Hmm.
okay, hey, this is my bank, it caters to me
Yeah.
and it makes everything easy for me.
Exactly, right? And customer loyalty, customer trust is not easy to win at all. One
Yeah,
small thing and and customers will turn on you very, very, very easily, very quickly.
yeah, yeah,
And yeah, it's gonna be very challenging for these digital banks to kind of do that.
yeah,
But I also think that they have the most bandwidth for it, right? They have the
yeah,
most ability for it, and they have a clean slate. Their infrastructure is sound. Anything to build on top of that should be super seamless, super quick.
yeah.
If the state bank lets them, that is right. It all comes back to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, back to customer loyalty. And the only way they're going to do that is if they properly engage and address actual customer problems. Right? It can't just be any old thing that you personally as a bank think that no, this falls into my purview. It can't be that. It needs to be something that a customer genuinely needs or wants.
Yes, and I also feel like that once you start solving these problems for customers and the customer starts feeling like, a good relationship has been maintained between you and them, it would be so much easier for you to engage them with their data as well, because there is
Hmm.
in general in our population there's this type of fear around data sharing. But
Hmm.
once the customer feels like they are close to the bank and they feel that relationship built up, they
Hmm.
would very likely be very open to sharing that data with the bank
Yep.
because they would have created that trust with them. So when you
Hmm.
don't create the trust, you will have problems in engaging the customer further.
For sure. The conversations that I've had with people in their 20s and people just coming up into, just graduating, just in their universities, their entire stance is that if somebody can give me the value that I want, they have no issue sharing data. That
Yeah,
is that is not the concern. They just want to know that it is being used, ethically as well as in their favor. That's all.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a really really good point, because even if you go outside of this bit of quite a funny thing, if you go outside of banking and just look
Mhm.
at data usage in general when it comes to Meta, a lot of people that I've spoken to, and when the topic of Meta using your data or sharing your data comes up, a lot
Mhm.
of people are pretty okay with it because they're just like, it makes our life very easy. And I agree. Like, if I want to
Yeah.
buy something and, my specific interest, that they've tweaked their systems so finely, is that it knows exactly the kind of person I am. It knows exactly what
Yeah.
I would like to get and what solution I need for my problem. I think
Yes.
that is completely
Yes.
unrelated to banking, but it's just an example of how well they know the customer. And at that
Mhm.
point, I'm like, it's fine. You can use my data. It's okay.
Yeah, no, for sure. And again, completely off tangent, completely off of banking, but it is about how you use data to kind of make your customer's life better, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is a completely recent example, completely true example. I was looking for a very specific kind of graphic hoodie, okay?
Okay.
And I, for the life of me, cannot find a proper brand on Google. Okay, so when I looked up a couple of brands that I already knew of, and I looked at that particular product, I went back to my Instagram, knowing that in a couple of minutes, couple of hours, I would get targeted ads of brands I've never heard of, but that had the exact product I'm looking for, right?
Yeah.
And it's weird though because it's Google and then there's Meta, which are
Yeah.
completely separate entities,
Yeah.
but they work so seamlessly well together that they can give me exactly what I need exactly when I want it.
Yeah.
Uh, and that could be true for banking as well. Like
Yeah.
if I am looking up credit cards online, then immediately like Meta will know that I am looking for a credit card. Why can't my bank?
Yeah. Exactly. And then, this also brings in a very good point for open banking as well, which is
Hmm.
like, we're really anticipating. We want that to happen in Pakistan so bad.
Yeah.
But it brings a really good point for open banking as well, is that if I want to apply for a credit card from one bank, it can actually just know how I've been performing on my other, which it can, to be fair, right
Hmm.
now as well, but how I've been performing in terms of just general transactions outside of the credit card on in my other bank accounts. And that
Hmm.
would just make it so easy for me. And if I'm looking for a specific type of credit product or any type of service from my bank, but my bank doesn't have that, the bank that
Yeah.
does have it should be able to, cater to me.
Hmm. No, for sure. And credit cards aside, uh, taxation also makes a very good use case for open banking
Yeah.
because you're trying to collate all of these different bank statements at the end of the year, at the end of your financial year, and it's near impossible, right? How do you level that together, right? It,
Yeah.
especially if you have like four bank accounts or something, which I know people do. Like I only
Yeah.
have one and I have a wallet, but and that is like hard enough. But in yeah, so open banking has a lot of different use cases for Pakistan, and I sincerely hope that the state bank does kind of lean to it soon.
Yeah, I feel like it would take us to, where we're hoping to go with digital banking and in terms
Hmm.
of customer experience for fintech as well. I think that for a closing note, I would like to also mention that, when it comes to digital banking, this is the point that I really like to repeat everywhere because I just feel like it needs to be heard more is that with
Hmm.
digital banking, I feel like the gap is that money is becoming more digital by the day, and in a lot of places and a lot of merchants, they're shifting to
Hmm.
digital. Save some, but most of them are.
Yeah.
And comparatively, there's less cash in the economy as compared to
Hmm.
before. Not that much, but as compared to before. But when it comes to managing, when it was managing the cash, you could do it like offline. But now that the money is online and money is digital, I feel like the banks and our institutions have not caught up to it yet, and managing that money and sort of
Hmm.
taking care of it digitally is now becoming a challenge as well. So I feel
Hmm.
like we need to keep up with how money transforms. Digital banking should transform accordingly.
Absolutely. Digitalization is still something our banks are working on. Digitization
Yeah,
to ho gayi hai. Like money is flowing through digital channels, but the actual digitalization of management of it is still
yeah,
something that I think they're working on. And end note, open banking ke bagair nahi hoga. Open finance, everything needs to be there. It needs to be available for fintechs, for
yeah,
banks, for customers to be able to use for everyone's betterment. No, I
yeah,
honestly don't know anyone, any entity that might suffer from it.
yeah.
So I don't know why. Let's just do it.
Yeah, I think it's about time. So we're going to end with a request to State Bank. Please bring open banking to us.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you so much for your time, Anushe. It was really nice talking to you about fintech and digital banking and the whole world of it. Loved your insights.
Thank you so much for having me, Sinudia.